Hello, everyone. We are live here once again with the Total NASL Roundtable, the first one of 2016. I'm here with Jason, Logie, and Teal, all the way from Ottawa. How are you guys tonight?
Doing
Doing
well.
well. Can't complain.
So let's start out with Teal. Can you break down the spring season for the Fury?
Yeah, the Fury kick off the season against your New York Cosmos. It's being billed as a rematch of the NASL Championship, um, but the two teams will be unrecognizable from the two teams that took the pitch in November. Both teams have had a lot of signings and departures, and we'll talk about that in the second segment of the show. So that's where we kick off on the road in at Hofstra on Long Island.
Do you know if
And
any supporters are going to make their way down? Maybe for like
I would
a
be very
fourth
surprised.
game?
It does not appear that way. I have heard no rumblings of that, so I don't think that's on the books for
Aw,
this game. Yeah, I know it was exciting last season
it was
when
great,
what was
yeah.
it, a couple of hundred of them showed up for the final. But yeah, this is the first game of the season. I don't think that's going to happen. And I'm taking a look at the schedule. The Fury start with four straight road games. You'd like to think that it was a smart decision by the league to take into account the weather in Ottawa in April, which is really cold. But then you look at Edmonton's schedule, and they have a game in their second week in Edmonton, which is a lot colder than Ottawa. So much for that. Four straight games on the road, and we have to wait until May 1st or May 5th, May 1st, to see the Fury play a home game. It'll be against against Miami FC, the expansion team from Miami, and yeah, it should be an exciting time. Get introduced to a new franchise, a new club, and I'm looking forward to it. So those are the two big games: New York Cosmos and the home opener at Miami FC about a month later.
I know we're not going to talk about the fall season, but the first match of the fall season, the Cosmos face the Fury once more. The first match of the fall season. So maybe the league is trying to force this rivalry for the 2016 season. Again, we saw it at the championship final. We saw how intense it was. Both sets of supporters were so excited for the match. One, because it was a final, but you can feel that in 2016 or in the spring season, we're going to feel the same intensity in these next couple of matches.
I mean, it's great. It's two teams that were the pinnacle of the NASL in 2015, and they're the well, at least for Ottawa, New York is the closest rival geographically. There's nothing else that's close, and so it's not forced for Ottawa fans to feel that they have a rivalry with New York. It's the most accessible place to go, but uh, New York and Ottawa traditionally in other sports aren't rivals. That has never happened really. So it's interesting to see it develop here in NASL.
So, Jason, can you talk about the spring season for the Railhawks?
Sure. Yeah, the spring season we're opening up against Minnesota, who they were a top four team from last year. I know they haven't signed too many players so far, but who they've signed, uh, I think have been maybe the most interesting movements across the NASL, signing Lance Lang and Pinho, two guys who were, I mean, top 11 guys from last season. They're still yet to sign some of their big names from last season that they already had. So they're going to be quite a challenge on opening day, but it should be pretty exciting. We have a fairly tough home schedule this year. I just been taking a look at the league across across the board. I feel like we might have the fourth toughest home schedule. Fortunately, we're one of the better home teams in terms of how we played in the past, but having the fourth toughest home schedule, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge to walk out of that stretch, or at least that half of our schedule, with some solid points. Fortunately, our road schedule is not as bad. But in terms of where I look forward to seeing our team go, we get a chance to go to New York, and that was a fun matchup last year, a high-scoring one, a lot of penalties, a lot of fouls. We get to go to OKC or Rayo for our very first away match, so that'll be exciting to see not only what it's like for a team to play there, but just welcoming OKC overall to the league. Miami, the other new team, we play them at home later on in the year. Overall, I think it's a manageable schedule to potentially finish in the top 4 in the spring, potentially. But I think the home schedule is going to be a big difference maker on how competitive we end up being this spring.
Okay, so moving on to Logie. Logie, can you talk about the spring season for the Jacksonville Armada? I know the second match of the Cosmos season of our spring season, we're facing the Armada at home, so that's bound to be a great matchup.
The spring season is going to be exciting. Obviously, after last year's tumultuous, a breakdown with the managing situation and all that happened. We lost a lot of players. We brought a lot of players in. We've brought in some decent signings. I don't know the spring season. I'm not very confident in the fact that we signed Tony Miola. Of course, many of you know him as the U.S. men's national team goalie back in the day. So I mean, it's his first club he's ever managed. He's definitely bringing out a lot of faith from the supporters. But I don't know. I think of course the biggest game is what is our first game. I know we have a bye week, so we have that extra week of training, extra week to get prepared, and then we go to New York. So it's the winners of last year, man. It's a big start to the season. But it's good. It's good that we have a bye week, even though it sucks when the schedule released that we're the first ones on a bye week. But it's good because we get that extra week to go in and just give the Cosmos a run for their money in their own stadium. It's gonna be huge. I know there's Cosmos, and then you get the new boys in the league, the Miami FC, the next week at home. So those two games are going to be huge. If we drop points against the Cosmos, we need to get points against Miami. We saw last year, once we started dropping points, it was hard to get back. And another thing that Jason noted, I forget how many days ago it was, but we haven't won a game on the road. And the teams that we're playing on the road are the top teams that finished last year. We've got Ottawa, Minnesota, Fort Lauderdale, New York, and Carolina, which are all top teams that play at home. But it's also the top teams that finished at the top last season. So it's going to be difficult. It's going to take a lot of willpower from the boys. The first thing definitely is get the chip off of our shoulder and get that first away win. And will it come against New York, Fort Lauderdale? We don't know. I'm hoping that we can come back from New York and get that first road win. But I don't know. A lot of hope. Hope is really the definition, the word that defines the spring season for me, is the hope to get back into contention and just to be able to play with the teams that are in the league, because we stuck with them last year in the spring season for a good while, but it's just got to finish it out, and you just got to finish it out to the end. This league is very it's not separated by a lot. All the teams are closely knit. Any team can beat anybody. So it's going to be exciting, and I'm feeling kind of mid-table for the spring season, just to get that flow under Miola's managing career, and just to find ourselves. But it should be exciting. Just very hopeful for the spring season. We can make steps the right way.
And I heard
Logan, I have a question or a thought, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
Logan, yeah, you're right that I did point out that you guys do have the toughest road schedule this year, which is going to be tough for one of the worst, or I guess the worst road team from last season. But looking at it on the flip side, look at who you play at home this season. The best finisher from last season was Edmonton. The rest you have OKC and Miami, who they're going to be big unknowns right now. But traditionally, brand new teams to the NASL, with the exception of the Cosmos, have finished last in their first season. So look at Indy, they finished last. Jacksonville, they finished last. I think back when the Scorpions had joined a few years back, they finished last. So minus the Cosmos, all new teams have finished last. So with that said, Jacksonville, I mean, you have Tampa Bay, which they were one of the better overall finishers, but Tampa Bay was a horrendous road team, only averaging 0.6 points on the road. So I think you guys are going to have a good chance at home to kind of balance your prediction of being a really good home team facing weak teams that are traveling to you, but you're going to have your hands full. So overall, as a supporter, I'm sure you're going to pretty much go to all games. What kind of importance do you feel that brings to your fan group? What is it? The 904? What is it?
Section 904, yeah.
Yeah. So
It's
what do you think that means for the 904 and your home fans?
what it means is obviously we know how to win at home, and I don't understand how we didn't win a game away going back to last year. Don't even ask me. Don't understand. No, but it's really important. It's I mean, if we got the most difficult away schedule, we got one of the easiest home schedules in the spring, and definitely that balance is important. It's going to be huge to win these games at home. Miami FC, that's potentially it's a Florida rivalry, sort of. It's not quite a rivalry yet, but it's potential. And that's, like you said, that's a new team. We have to pick up points against them. Edmonton, they weren't the best away team last year, and both times they came to Jacksonville, we beat them. So definitely have to pick up points against Edmonton. Rayo's the other new team. Indy 11 and Tampa Bay Rowdies, which we beat the Rowdies 2-0 last year at home. So, I mean, just forget about the away schedule. Look at the home schedule. We need points against all these teams to be able to stick with the guys up top, the Cosmos, the Minnesota Uniteds, making all these big moves over the off season. But yeah, it's going to be huge. I know every game the atmosphere is electric out there. So it's gonna be even a bigger part on us to will our boys on to victory, because when we know we have such a difficult away schedule, we have the easiest home schedule, and it's just we just got to win at home. We got to pick up the points that we know we can get, and we'll see what happens there, of course. But like I was saying, leading out of the spring season into the fall, though, we need to start getting away wins, because if we don't, last year we never had the hope that we would ever win away, because if we kept losing and losing, and it was just like, oh, whatever. The players were playing really sloppy. It's like they didn't even care. But we need to pick up just at least one, just to give us that confidence. We can win at home, we can win away, we can compete in this league, and that's what I want to see in the spring season. It's just the fight to make sure that we pick up what we need at home, and just to bring it to every team we play away, and hope so we can get off of the bottom. That's where we finished last year. So yeah, to answer your thought, it's going to be huge for us as an atmosphere to bring it just to will these boys on to victory every game, and the points are huge, and it's just, I don't know, man, it's a lot of excitement. I'm so ready for it.
So, Theo, let's talk about the rematch, because it's a very exciting matchup to look forward to. But what's more exciting is that both clubs have different players. Some players, like for the Fury, they moved on, went to different clubs. The Fury have a brand new manager in Paul Dalglish. So both sides have different squads, but they're still gonna remember what happened in the championship.
Oh, for sure. There's a core of players with the Fury and the Cosmos that have remained, and the Fury players want to
get that revenge, right?
Well, exact revenge. They want to show that they can go toe to toe with the Cosmos and sometimes win. I mean, the Fury beat the Cosmos. Was it late in 2015, 4-0?
Oh no.
Was it 4-0, 4-1?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
It was.
And so there have been results that have been good for the Fury and bad for the Fury. Losing in the final maybe showed that Cosmos had a little more experience with championship matchups. I mean, Raul and Senna were in there. Senna is a 2008 European Cup winner. You can't buy that. Well, you can buy it. The Cosmos did that kind of experience, but it might have been something that the Fury were missing. Who knows? But they will be eager to show that they can beat the Cosmos again. But let me just say it right off the bat: beating the Cosmos in the first game of the regular season is not going to make up, in their minds, for losing the final. You don't recover from that by just winning the next game. It's it's gonna be a scar on their psyche for quite a while.
And they are going to have their chances throughout the season and potentially throughout the championship. If they make it, who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to know about Carolina's schedule.
What about it? I know I talked
What's
about it
going
a
on
little
with the
bit.
Railhawks in the spring season, Jason?
Well, I actually, before I jump into that, Theo, you may have noted from last year that Ottawa, you guys finished as by far the best road team in the league,
Yeah.
while Cosmos by far were the best home team in the league. So I think it's always going to be a fun clash when those two teams get matched up with one another for a little while coming. I know season to season there's so much turnover in teams, but culturally I'm curious to see how much that still stays true. Theo, like you said, you guys don't have a home game until pretty deep into the season. Just looking across the schedule, I kind of have you guys pegged as having the third toughest away schedule in the league.
Okay.
Just considering who you're playing, the only ones that I feel would be harder would be Jacksonville and OKC. But I really feel you guys might have the third toughest away. With that said, I feel you guys have the second easiest home schedule, only behind Jacksonville. So if you guys
Are you basing that on the fact that we have two expansion teams coming into Ottawa in the spring?
Yes, and it's the fact that typically expansion teams struggle their first season. And that's what I'm basing it off of. So likely
you think
you guys
Miami
are
is
going to have
a typical expansion team?
Yeah.
Throw that out there.
Well, Rayo only has like 3 players signed.
Rayo has 6 players signed. They just signed.
They have 6.
Yeah.
Today,
who was it? They just signed 6. They have 6 signees, but all MLS experience. The biggest is Sebastian Velasquez, played for RSL. No, they're making. I don't know. Rayo's kind of tricky because they're making some really good signings, but I mean, you never know. You don't. I'm not quite sure what way they're going, front office and stuff like that. I don't know how that's all working out, but they look like they've made some good signings and they've got a decent coach behind them. So.
Yeah, Rayo is definitely making strides in terms of their player personnel. But yeah, it's an interesting stat that you've got there that we have the third most difficult road schedule to start 2016. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Like you said, the turnover in the league is such that sometimes trying to predict that kind of thing might be a little risky.
Yeah, it's just based off of last season results. I mean, I'm considering a number of things, but the biggest factor is the amount of points per game that teams had away and home. So what, like, the quality that you really have coming in or the quality that you're really going to, how tough is that? So it's pretty stout. I mean, even for the Railhawks, I mentioned that our home schedule is going to be pretty tough. We're facing 3 out of the top 4 road teams from last season that we're having come in. Fortunately, Jacksonville we have coming in, and I know that's probably if Jacksonville looks at all of their road games, that's probably the game that they have circled as we got to win at least that one because it's going to be their easiest. Well, both teams, it's going to be our easiest home game, their easiest road game. So that's a game that both teams are going to have circled as a must-win later on in the season. But again, like Theo, you had asked overall with the schedule, I think we have a fairly balanced difficulty with our away games, even though we're a pretty crummy away team last year. I think we've added some good talent that's going to kind of change the story. So I think we're still waiting to hear from John, though, about your thoughts of your home and away schedule this spring.
Yeah, so again, like we start out our home schedule, we have 2 home matches to start out the spring season. One against the Fury, a tough matchup. Second one against the Jacksonville Armada. I know Logie's coming down for that one. That should be a great match, and probably a lot more Section 904 members. That's going to be pretty weird, invading Hofstra, like how
Ottawa.
Yeah.
The Fury.
Yeah. The Fury invaded our stadium, which wasn't very exciting. And then we host Miami FC, Rayo OKC, and to close it out, we play their Strikers. So it's going to be a very exciting spring season. As we all know, I think we could win the spring. And Jason said, before we went live, Jason said that the Cosmos were going to win the spring season.
Let Let me tell you why. Right now, based off of again, it's hard to go too much based off of last year because it's a brand new season. New York Cosmos have the third easiest home schedule and the third easiest away schedule. How do you give the champion of the last season the third easiest home and the third easiest away schedule?
But as Logie
I don't get
said,
it.
I don't think it's easy. I think anyone can beat any team any
Oh,
day.
true.
Yeah.
But just going based off of the raw facts of how things finished last year, I mean up and down. And I know it's all so close, but black and white, you guys have the third easiest home and the third easiest away based off of how teams did home and away last year. So I think it's kind of peculiar how they are keeping Ottawa down, finishing so well last year, keeping them down with giving them such a tough schedule, and then they give New York overall the easiest schedule on the season. And you guys were the champions last year.
I think
What's up with that?
I think we're forgetting about one team, and that's Minnesota United.
Absolutely.
Their signings they've made some pretty big ones. You had Stefano Pino. Was it Pino that
Pino.
went from Fort Lauderdale to already what was a star-studded Minnesota attack with Campos and Ramirez. Of course, they lost Al Hassan, but still, they've got a ton of depth in that roster. They also picked up Lance Lang from Edmonton, right where Al Hassan left, which Lance Lang was on fire as a midfielder last year in the league. So I mean, I don't know. We're talking about the Cosmos winning the spring season, but you got to remember Minnesota United out there over in the middle of the country, just chilling out there. They've got a strong lineup, and
I did say off air that they would finish second in the spring. I did say that off air earlier. They would finish second.
Honestly, I think it's going to be a toss-up between New York, Minnesota, and Tampa. Because Tampa's made some solid signings too. Heineman, and you've got Khalif Al-Hassan went to Tampa. They just renewed Freddie Adu's contract, though he wasn't an amazing player before the season. He was kind of finding his form a little bit. So those three teams, I don't know. I'm sticking with Minnesota United, but you can't forget about the boys out in the middle of the United States because they are hot at home. Their fans are going to bring all the energy because they're that much closer to MLS. You know, they're going to get a lot of people out to all their games. They're already making big attendance marks. They added seats to their stadium, so it's packed every game. And I just think they're just going to feed off of it. They're going to demolish at home. And I think they've made good enough signings to where they're going to put the goals in the back of the net and win the spring season.
They now have 6 of the 11 end-of-season award team, like the best team of NASL award.
Best 11?
6 of those 11 players are now Minnesota United players. I was kind of surprised that they didn't come after Paiser and Alves. They went after everyone else on that list. It was crazy.
Yeah. No, it's definitely Minnesota's team to keep your watch for, just because just the way they're going and we all know where they're going MLS, and what brings people out to a sporting event. It's that league that they're in, the money they spent to be in the MLS. It's that's attractive to the fans. I know any team that has been promoted to MLS. There's massive attendance numbers rising and all. So I mean, even though they're still in the NASL, they're going to get pack that place out every game, and they're going to be psyched up there. So that's who I choose for the spring. It's going to be difficult, especially the Armada going away to Minnesota United. Just us trying to get out of there with at least a point. It's going to be tough. They're very stout defense and their attack is ruthless. So.
Not just the Armada, the Cosmos struggled last season in the spring at Minnesota, and we got a draw. So, every team has to watch out for Minnesota. Even if you're playing at Minnesota or at home, it doesn't matter. They're a very tough team. So we have some listener or some viewer questions. At Soccer Heretic says that Marcina, the Rayo OKC coach, commented on his intended style where they presumptuous without signings and do those signed since match that style. Who wants to go first?
Did Marcina make those comments at the luggage pickup at the airport, or?
Yeah, I heard you said that on your podcast. You were like, did they get Messina from the airport?
Did they sign him? That was Wesley Burdine from he covers Minnesota
Yeah,
United.
that guy's funny.
Yeah. Um, so what was it? They want to sign players that.
No, so Marcina commented on his style of play before they signed players, right? And then this viewer asked, were they presumptuous without signings, and do those signs since match that style?
What's the style?
Whatever style Alan Marcina claimed.
Al Marcina.
Yeah, but Marcina is a great manager. You know what I mean? Like he has NASL experience. And again, when we first heard the news of Rayo OKC joining the league, right? I remember we got Teal's reaction, and he was like, Oklahoma, why would they pick that city for expansion, right? So when we look today and say, well, they have Alan Marcina, they have MLS players, I would have never expected that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Were they the ones that picked up the former Scorpion coach that won the championship?
That's him.
Yeah,
That's Marcina.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of hard
that
to
season.
it's kind of hard to declare a style when 3 out of your 5 signings have been defenders. I mean they've got Pekka, and they've brought in Sebastian Velazquez, who's he's a great central attacking midfielder. But right now I don't really sense a style. I just see spots being filled. I mean, one guy that definitely sticks out to me is Rashawn McKenzie, who they picked up from Atlanta Silverbacks, which we know is sad face. Atlanta Silverbacks are not in the league anymore, but Rashawn McKenzie, I believe he played every minute for Atlanta last year. So he's a solid roster pickup, but I mean, without even signing a striker or any other forward solid midfielder, I don't really see a certain style. I just see roster spots being filled, and like I said, 3 of the 5 spots that were filled were defenders. So right now, I just see them like starting out that they need players on that roster because the season's only 2 months away. Is my math right? 3 months away. No, but I mean, we'll see a style once they start picking up more players, and that'll be really soon because they need to start getting the roster filled for this preseason, which I would like to point out preseason is very soon, and I want to bring that up later.
Okay. Yeah, they also picked up Kosuke Kimura, Japanese international, or I don't know if he played for Japan, but he was with the Silverback last year as well. And they picked up, well, this is the most impressive one for me, they picked up Michel, who was at FC Dallas. And he's an impressive midfielder, very solid on the ball, creative, finds that killer pass. So, like you said, difficult to pick out a style. The Marcina style in the past couple of seasons, they've been kind of negative, especially last season. I found that they weren't playing very attractive football. They were trying to destroy more than create. That might have been just against the Fury. I don't know, because I will admit I didn't watch the Scorpions play in any other games. So it's tough for me.
They were a nasty, aggressive team. They really were.
That was my impression. Yeah.
They had one of the most. I think they led the league in fouls and penalties and everything else you can imagine. That's breaking the rules of the game, I guess.
Yeah, Armada were second, by the way, guys. Second.
Yep. But they just have a super aggressive. They had a super aggressive style last year, so I think if they keep that style, they're gonna be fun to watch. Like I would say, arguably Armada might have been the most fun team to watch last year because they played so all out all the time. But it was just an overall undisciplined play style, which I mean it hurt. Not to stat this conversation up all of a sudden, but when just looking at what are the most important metrics that produce points that you're getting on the season, I found it really curious to see that it's not actually what you're doing good with getting goals. I mean, it's still important, it's still valuable, but the biggest indicators on the points you're getting per game is more indicative on the mistakes that you're making. Allowing red cards, allowing goals actually carries more weight than goals you're actually scoring and like saves that you're actually making. It was interesting just taking a look at what were the most valuable metrics that produce points. And it was preventing the mistakes as opposed to doing the good things well.
Going back to Rayo OKC, do you guys think they're gonna have a big budget, or do you think they're working with a big budget going into the season?
It looks like they do. I mean, if we go just by their first 6 signings, these are all MLS caliber players, um, and you have to imagine that they have to be paying them enough to attract them to NASL. Well, Kosuke Kimura has an MLS experience, I believe, but he mostly played in NASL. So, yeah, I think to answer your question, yes, I think they have a nice budget, but that depends if they have their first 6 signings that are this, and then fill out the rest of their roster with no names. Then we
Or
can maybe alter
Vallecano
that.
players?
Well, yeah, we don't know what the philosophy is yet. Like, what's the tie-in? What the branding is tied in? We know that, but what
Is this
what
gonna be like a
exactly is the
feeder
relationship
club?
between the two clubs?
It's interesting because as you noticed last year with the Armada, we signed an Argentinian coach and we brought in Argentinian players, but we struggled. I believe they have the money. It's how they use it. Because a problem with bringing in players from Vallecano is that we all know that the Spanish game is different from the American game. Bringing players from Vallecano, you're risking how they play, their philosophy when they play, and for the Argentines last year for Jacksonville, they had to switch. They couldn't play fast. The defense we had was too small. It's a totally different game whenever you come across the water to America, and I think it's risky if they bring Vallecano players over who haven't played in the league, haven't played in America at all. They don't know the structure, so they just need to be smart with what they do. For me, if I was Marcina, I wouldn't mess with going over to Spain, bringing over Vallecano players. I would keep dipping into the MLS market or the NASL, just pick up players actually that know the league and the structure, because that was a mistake Armada made last year. Just bringing in random guys from all around the world who've never played in America, and yeah, it's just you got to be you've brought in solid players. It's just what you do with the rest of your money. Are you gonna bring in talent from overseas who may not have played over here, or are you gonna bring in guys who know what they're doing in this league?
Yeah, that's probably going to be what they're deciding in the next couple of weeks. Maybe we have to reach out to Rayo OKC to see what they're thinking. So we have another question from Michael Morris saying, can you talk about the commissioner's comments on the USL? So to actually quote Bill Peterson here, he says that the USL have developed a league where they are, in my opinion, a reserve league, and that is where they are having success, and rightfully so. I think it is great for the game, great for MLS, great for the players to get a chance to be in a development system, but it is completely a different model from what we do.
Well, I think Commissioner Peterson is feeling the heat a little bit. The NASL, since its inception, has been like facing forward and its guns squarely on MLS. And now the rear guard is being threatened because USL is growing exponentially every season, it seems. They're having success in big markets with a lot of attendance, and there's whispers that USL is trying to get into D2. So that's the turf of NASL, and I think the commissioner's starting to feel that, and his comments, I think, are encouraging in that he's aware that the flank is exposed. That's my feeling on that. I don't think he's trying to start a war with USL necessarily, but with the comments, I just question where that's coming from. It sort of came out of the blue. It's a strange one. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. As I was watching the reaction to those comments, the one that kind of resonated the most was seeing a comment about, look at all the other professional leagues and how the reserve league is really the second division in all other major sports, and it's the independent leagues that's a third division or lower. The only exception really is soccer. When you start looking at the other major sports like baseball, well, there is no, I guess, football. I mean, it goes to college, so football doesn't really count. But with baseball and basketball, that's at least their structure. Where the development league, like the minor leagues or the D League in basketball, that's the second division. Any independent league is below that. So I thought it was a fun comment as a nice little jab, just as a fan of the NASL. But I think it's a realistic threat in a certain respect. But it was just a nice little diss to saying that you guys are nothing but, reserves for MLS trying out their players. Where in the NASL, I think its direct quote was, "We play for championships here."
Yeah.
Saying that we're not playing to develop players for someone else. We're playing for trophies.
Yeah, I want to add. I don't know. My interest of the league has just gone down since all these developmental teams. Because over in Germany and England, they have their own real league where they with all the teams put to one. But over here, it's kind of awkward because you've got these individual teams that don't have any ties with any MLS teams, and then that are playing against these MLS teams that have their reserve squads or are tied to an MLS team, and I don't know. It's just made it less interesting to me, because it's just for USL to try to be a second division team with however many quote unquote twos we have in the league in the USL. I don't think it's as interesting as it used to be with all the individual clubs actually fighting to go for a championship. And also, I don't know, it kind of hurts the talk of wanting a promotion relegation because, in England you've got all individual teams, top four or however many leagues. There's a crap ton of leagues in England, but the top four leagues, you've got all the individual teams going at it, and that's the league structure in England. And there's no developmental teams up there, and it makes it really interesting. But whenever you implement whenever you implement the reserve squads and try to make that a tier 2, it's not as interesting, and also it's kind of weird because you can't really promote a reserve side to the MLS, and it's just like it's a weird structure as to where like a Charleston Battery may get promoted if they finish 8th place behind 7 other teams. I don't know. I don't really. In my opinion, I would rather prefer like an actual reserve league that it's like no promotion or no talks, not involved with a team that can get promoted or relegated. But just. I don't know, man. But I do like the comments. It's kind of hard. It's hard to explain. It's kind of hard to really put it out there. But
yeah, there's a couple of other points. MLS is in a conundrum because to their credit, they're trying to develop a lot of players. Like they have academies, and they see that as the future. But then they don't have anywhere for those players to play. So and I'm not a fan of it, but what they're trying to do is essentially build a farm system like baseball.
Yeah, exactly.
And that, I can't tell you how much I hate that. I don't like the idea at all. A reserve league is expensive, and they don't get revenue from it at all. So associating with another market to develop their players is a smart business decision. I just don't like the spirit of it. I think it's really interesting that the USSF, that is so closely linked to MLS, they're hand in hand, has come out and said that teams who are officially affiliated with MLS are no longer eligible to play in the US Open Cup. Now that's an interesting development. It shows a bit of spine from the USSF to go against MLS's wishes in that. And it shows that they're not a fan either of this. Well, maybe not fully, but it's a hint that maybe they don't like the affiliation of these development clubs with the MLS.
Yeah, I think it's right that Bill Peterson is all fired up about this, and it's just right because now the NASL is going to announce some West Coast clubs. I heard in March, so we're going to hear it a bit soon. And according to Empire of Soccer, that's where this article article came from. He said in about 4 weeks. So a couple of reports saying that we're going to hear West Coast expansion. I know everyone's excited for that one. So we will have a lot more to talk about in the next couple of weeks. So that's all for us tonight. You can give this a thumbs up. You can subscribe if you are new, and leave your thoughts below. What are your thoughts about the spring season as we broke it down? What are your thoughts? What game are you excited for in 2016? Are you excited for the rematch? Leave that all in the comment section below, and we will see you guys real soon.